Imagine an island where time flows differently from the rest of Earth. What would happen if a group of scientists ventured to this very island for an experiment, oblivious to the grim truth that once there, no one ever returns? What deep mystery shrouds this island? Let's delve into today's new sci-fi adventure movie from the very beginning. The Island's Enigma. The story opens with a pilot engaged in a clandestine mission on a secret island. Suddenly, a sound from outside startles him. Frightened, he draws his gun and moves towards the source of the noise. Along the way, he discovers a discarded gun, eerily identical to his own, even bearing the same serial number. As he stares in bewildered astonishment, someone attacks him from behind, ending his life. The assailant, now piloting the helicopter, attempts a swift departure. However, no sooner does the helicopter ascend into the sky than it collides with an invisible dome, exploding violently. It's as if an unknown barrier encases the island, rendering escape impossible. What is the profound mystery of this isolated land? The narrative then flashes back a few days, where a monologue reveals how a private pharmaceutical company stumbled upon this enigmatic island years ago. They discovered that this island operated on principles vastly different from the rest of the world, leading them to keep its existence a closely guarded secret. The company embarked on solitary, clandestine experiments, delving into everything from space-time mechanics to human biology. For anyone arriving here, everything shifted. For nearly 2 decades, this private company conducted its experiments in secret. However, 2 days prior, an unforeseen incident during their research created a catastrophe that now threatens the entire Earth. In response, the company's owner decided to dispatch a team of soldiers to the island to execute a final, crucial mission, after which they intend to obliterate the island itself. The scene then shifts to San Francisco, where Addison, a former military soldier, approaches Chase for recruitment into this mission. She reveals that they possess extensive knowledge about Chase, from his complete history to his most personal details. Chase, once a military man, was discharged after a particular mission, and his name has since been erased from official documents. Addison's company specifically seeks individuals with no known connections or family ties. Chase queries Addison about the mission's specifics. Addison explains their objective: to complete a mission for a private company on a secret island from which they simply need to retrieve the company owner's daughter. In exchange, each of them will receive millions of dollars, a sum so vast they could live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Chase is puzzled, finding the mission seemingly straightforward, making the exorbitant payment perplexing. Nevertheless, in desperate need of money, he accepts the assignment. Following this, Addison proceeds to recruit their next member, Russ. Russ is not only an accomplished private investigator, but also a top-tier martial artist. However, a tragic accident claimed his family, after which he now only accepts the most perilous missions. Upon hearing of the immense financial reward, Russ too agrees to join Addison's team. The following day, the entire team convenes at a private airbase. By now, Addison had assembled 4 additional members. She begins to brief everyone on their mission to the secret island, which houses 2 research facilities, one in the north and one in the south. Upon reaching the island's center by helicopter, the group will split into 2 teams, each heading towards a different research center. The first team will comprise Addison herself, Chase, and a 3rd member, Dex. The second team will consist of Russ, accompanied by Court and Tag, who will proceed to the north facility. The primary mission is to locate Stacy, the CEO's daughter, but her current whereabouts, within either facility, remain unknown. Their sole objective is to find Stacy and return. Their helicopter and pilot will remain at the landing zone, awaiting their return. Before embarking on the mission, Tag glances at a photo of his daughter. Since his wife's passing, his daughter is his entire world, but she has been diagnosed with a severe illness, necessitating a substantial sum of money for her treatment. This urgent need is his driving force for undertaking this mission. All 6 members then engage in a discussion, noting a peculiar similarity among them. None of them have any living family members. They ponder why the company specifically chose them. a significant secret lies behind this, one that will unfold later in the story. As per the agreed schedule, all members board a helicopter and depart towards the island. Finally, after a continuous journey of 15 hours, they arrive at their destination. As planned, Addison, Chase, and Dex begin their journey south. They hadn't proceeded far when they began to encounter human bodies, grotesquely disfigured, as if torn apart by an animal. The sight suggested extreme danger. All three advanced cautiously, weapons at the ready. Addison attempted to contact her second team via transmitter, warning them to be vigilant, but surprisingly, no radio communication was possible. Here, Dex, adhering to his habit, quickly jotted down everything in his diary, meticulously recording all potential threats. Chase reiterated to Addison his earlier question. Why would such a seemingly simple mission command such a high reward? This implied that the company had withheld crucial information. Meanwhile, the second team was also progressing in their designated direction. Along the way, Russ spotted a rope tied to a tree ahead. A fleeting sense of déjà vu washed over him, as if he had tied that very rope himself. Yet, this was his first visit to the island. How could this be? He dismissed the thought and continued with his team. By now, they too realized that contact with their other team had been lost. Addison's team continued to discover more human remains as they advanced. They couldn't comprehend the cause of these deaths. A little further on, they found another makeshift camp. Addison then began installing her communication devices there, attempting to extend their range and send a signal to her second team to ascertain their position. However, this method also proved ineffective. Furthermore, Dex revealed that he had found a watch on a nearby body, but strangely, he was wearing an identical watch himself. Given that these watches were of a very limited edition, this was highly unusual. Chase, however, suggested it might be a mere coincidence and advised against dwelling on it. Besides, an animal had disfigured the body's face, preventing them from identifying the person wearing the watch. Meanwhile, the pilot, who both teams had instructed to wait, suddenly began hearing strange noises from outside. This was the exact scene we witnessed at the beginning of the story, and this time, it was revealed that the attacker on the pilot was a strange mutated man. As he killed the pilot and attempted to escape in the helicopter, it collided with an invisible barrier in the air and exploded. This confirmed it. No one could escape this island. Chase and Dex, who were at the camp, heard a sound nearby. Surprisingly, they found a living man here. They were perplexed, as no team had been there before them. Nevertheless, they inquired about a girl named Stacy, whose retrieval was their primary mission. Hearing the name, Dr. Young recalled something and urged them to follow him. To everyone's shock, they discovered that Stacy was already dead, her face disfigured by an animal. Addison and the others were disheartened. Their main mission, to retrieve the girl, was already compromised. They wondered if they would still receive the full payment. Regardless, they decided to take the girl's body with them. Night was approaching, and they were a considerable distance from the helicopter, so all members decided to camp there for the night. They planned to retrieve the rest and depart the following day. They still hadn't managed to contact the second team to inform them that their continued progress was futile, as their primary mission, Stacy, was already deceased. Dr. Young, however, seemed pleased, believing he would finally escape the island with this group. But when he saw Dex's diary, he produced an identical diary that he had found on the path. Everyone was astonished. Where did this second, identical diary come from? Furthermore, the second diary contained events written one day into the future, all in Dex's handwriting. How could this be? Dex had only arrived today. The situation had become even more complicated. No one could fathom how this was possible. Meanwhile, on the other side, the second team, Russ, Court, and Tag, also decided to stop for the night, lighting a fire to spend it there. Just then, they heard a strange noise and readied their weapons for the impending danger. Suddenly, a creature pulled Tag from behind, dragging him away. Tag saw that it was an enormous creature, and they now understood who was responsible for the condition of those bodies. The creature was about to kill Tag when Russ arrived just in time, shooting the creature and saving Tag. However, Court was left alone behind, and a second creature attacked him. Court saw that this creature was none other than an identical version of himself. Before Court could react, his other version fatally killed him. Where did Court's other version come from? Where did these creatures originate? And how were the teams finding two versions of their own belongings? Unraveling the time loop. The secret to all this will soon be revealed. Meanwhile, Addison and the others began reading Dex's second diary, which contained events extending to the following day. It stated that Stacy, whom they had found dead, surprisingly reanimated by the next morning. Everyone found this unbelievable. However, when they awoke the next morning, they were indeed surprised to find Stacy alive. Everyone was astonished at how this could have happened. Stacy, whom they themselves had confirmed as dead the previous day, was now alive again. Meanwhile, Russ and Tag, now the only two members remaining after Court's death, finally reached the North Camp. They now simply needed to find Stacy and escape this place alive, as the previous night's incident had confirmed the presence of dangerous, strange mutants on the island. This entire North Camp was completely deserted, so Russ attempted to communicate using the camp's walkie-talkie. Fortunately, the other walkie-talkie was with Addison, so communication was finally established. Russ recounted how they had found Stacy dead, but then she was alive again that morning, so they could now leave. Meanwhile, outside, Stacy began to explain everything to Dex. She recounted how she had arrived 3 days prior with her team. They discovered that one of their experiments had caused the employees to mutate and attack each other. But upon their arrival, they found that there was no way to leave the island. Following this, the mutated individuals became extremely dangerous and began killing their team members. However, according to Stacy, she too had been killed by a mutant. But that morning, she found herself alive, and she herself didn't know how she had reanimated. By now, Dr. Young had comprehended a great deal from the notes in that future diary, and he began to reveal everything to Addison and the entire team based on what he had learned from Dex's future diary. Apparently, this entire island is surrounded by wormholes. Because of these, time here never progresses in a straight line. Time only flows linearly for 72 hours, and then it resets, meaning all events begin anew, exactly as they occurred in the previous loop. The events of the previous loop will merge with this new timeline, which means that every 3 days, a new version of Addison and her team lands on this island. This implied that they weren't here for the first time. Rather, previous versions of them had arrived here before, which explained why they kept finding so many things from the beginning. First, the discovery of Dex's watch, then the identical diary containing events from a few days into the future. This was because the previous version of Dex had spent a considerable amount of time here, understanding and noting everything in his diary. Chase then asks, if that's the case, they should have seen their other versions. Where did their past versions go? According to Dr. Young, all their previous versions either died, as they had indeed found many dead bodies along the way, each with a disfigured face, preventing recognition. This meant that all the bodies they had seen thus far were actually their own past versions. Dr. Young explained that any of their versions that survived dying were likely mutated by the experiment's virus, because according to this diary, spending 3 days on the island initiates this mutation in humans. In essence, this entire island operates within a Mointomian time loop, where every 3 days, time resets and all events recommence. Those who survived the previous loop then enter the next loop. This is a never-ending cycle that will never cease. This also implies that no previous version of them has ever managed to escape the island. Now, having learned the full truth, everyone was terrified. As they pondered their predicament, they began to hear the sounds of numerous mutants outside, who were coming to attack them. Meanwhile, Russ and Tag, listening to all this on the radio, also found mutants approaching them from behind. They realized these were indeed their own versions, now mutated and beyond their control. This confirmed that everything written in Dr. Young's diary was absolutely true. Russ and Tag began fighting against their own mutated versions, finding it unsettling to be attacked by themselves. On the other side, Addison's group was also speechless upon seeing multiple mutated versions of themselves. Chase initially couldn't bring himself to attack, but Addison made him understand that he had to think only of himself and attack. Their other versions were no longer human. After this realization, they finally shot all the mutants in the head, killing them. Russ and Tag also managed to defeat this first wave of mutants, but their ammunition and supplies were severely depleted. They knew that. However, surprisingly, the company's base already knew the truth. They were aware that Stacy had already died. Here on this island, the time loop was resetting every 3 days. They had intentionally sent this team to the island for their final experiment. This is why, at the beginning of the story, everyone noticed that none of the team members had any family. The company had chosen them precisely so that no one in the outside world would attempt to find them after they became trapped in the time loop on the island. They were also lured with vast sums of money to ensure they wouldn't refuse the journey. Now, a further secret is revealed from the company's base. In precisely 12 hours, the company will bomb and destroy the entire island to prevent this dangerous mutation from spreading beyond the island. This was why they had sent this team to the island for the very last time. This means that the remaining 5 members now have to figure out how to escape on their own, and they have to do it within the next 12 hours. Otherwise, the entire island will be obliterated by bomb blasts. Russ and Tag communicated all this to Addison via radio, who was with Chase and Dr. Young in a different part of the island. Now, none of them could comprehend how they would escape this island. Their helicopter was already destroyed, and they couldn't escape by air anyway. Shut. The race against time. Suddenly, Russ recalled how he had been experiencing visions of the future since arriving here, which he had dismissed as déjà vu until now. He recounts one such event. This implied that because time was running in reverse on the island, he had been recalling future memories from the beginning. He could see the future. He saw that at a corner of the island, there was a final boat, which they could use to escape by sea. Everyone else also understood that since time on the island had reversed, their future had become their past, allowing Russ to see everything that would happen. As morning broke, both teams, from their respective locations, began to move towards the same boat. According to Russ's future vision, Addison's team was closer to the boat. They would board it first and await Russ and Tag's arrival, after which they would all depart the island together. Fortunately, Russ's future vision proved absolutely correct. Addison, Chase, and Dr. Young successfully located the boat. Dr. Young also delivered good news. The boat contained ample fuel, enough to comfortably reach the mainland, provided no major storms arose at sea. Meanwhile, Russ and Tag, who were considerably further away, began fighting mutants as they advanced. Their ammunition and supplies were severely depleted from battling mutants since the previous day. Now, with their weapons exhausted, they were forced to fight the mutants hand to hand. This struggle left them severely fatigued, and the mutants, being their stronger, mutated versions, slowly began to overpower Tag and Russ. Eventually, after a prolonged fight, Tag finally succumbed to his own mutated version and was killed. Russ, with a heavy heart, promised Tag that if he survived, he would ensure his daughter's treatment and safety. But then, he saw his own mutated version aiming a gun at him. By now, seeing his companions die, Russ was also disheartened, but before his other version could shoot him, Chase appeared from behind, killing the mutant and saving Russ. However, in that moment, Russ's foot stepped into a trap, and a piece of wood impaled his stomach, rendering him unable to move forward. By now, 12 hours had passed, and bombs began to detonate across the entire island. Russ urged Chase to save himself and leave him behind, knowing he wouldn't survive. Chase, taking Russ's gun, then headed towards the boat. On the boat, seeing the bombs exploding outside, Dr. Young urged Addison to leave immediately, as they wouldn't survive waiting for Chase. However, Addison refused to leave without her companions, Chase and Russ. So, Dr. Young struck Addison on the head, rendering her unconscious, and then, without waiting for anyone, he took the boat and started to leave the island. Fortunately, Chase finally reached the shore, running, and at the last moment he jumped into the water, grabbing onto the boat's rope. By now, Addison had regained consciousness. She saw Dr. Young, who was escaping the island. By this point, having spent 3 days on the island, he too began to mutate, as Dr. Young had arrived before everyone else. Now, mutated, he attacked Addison, but before he could kill her, someone shot him. It was none other than Russ, who, before succumbing to the island's explosions, fired a final, decisive shot, saving Addison. Now only Chase and Addison remained on the boat. Holding their breath, they hoped to navigate this a wormhole safely, as their helicopter had failed to escape the previous time. But then, fortunately, the explosions occurring on the island disrupted a part of the wormholes, creating a safe passage. Chase and Addison finally made it out and survived. All their other companions perished on the island, but at least before their own deaths, they helped these two to escape. With this hopeful ending, the movie concludes. So, how did you find the video? If you appreciate my effort, please consider subscribing to the channel to show your support, so I can continue bringing you such underrated and unseen sci-fi movies. Thank you.